Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pre-Port with me. I'm John Idarola. AB Burnsucker is going to be joining me for the Damage Port. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's an update on the Biden doc scandal that I think actually kind of changes things, and we're going to talk about it and what should happen going forward. Beyond that, we've got devastating voicemails that Andrew Tate left that I'm going to assume we're going to play into the trial that he appears to be rocketing towards at a speed that you would normally need a gas guzzling supercar to reach. So we've got that. We've got some tech stuff. We've got some absolutely terrible Uvalde cop stuff. We've got just a lot of really interesting news, honestly. And so we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. We're gonna be talking about stoves once again. There's more to talk about when it comes to stoves. Some behind the scenes reporting of Donald Trump's VP search. And what's interesting about that is I'm glad you're here for the pre-port because on the full show, we're going to be talking about him trying to pick a VP who almost certainly is going to be a woman. Our main story in the pre-port today is going to be how he picks people. And I feel like there's a bit of a crossover between those two topics. So we're going to jump into it in just a second. Please hit the like button if you haven't already so that people know we're live and, the algorithm needs to be fed like some sort of eldritch god. Anyway, in advance of that, here are the numbers for today. The big number that I'm going to take away in this, one is the death count, unfortunately skyrocketing, almost double what it was just a couple of months ago. The other numbers aren't necessarily great. The test positivity rate, I do think, is down from 16, if I remember correctly, so that is good news. And gas prices have ticked up about a half a cent. I'm just waiting to see something big happening in that area, hopefully going down again at some point. There's a few little stories I was thinking about talking about, but I do think that on tomorrow's show, when Brett Ehrlich joins me, he's going to have fun with these. So we're going to save some of those for later. I do want to talk, though, very briefly about bullshit. It's something that we talk about quite often on the show. And in particular, the incentive system that's set up, wherein people whose job it is to do something like what I'm doing right now, who are encouraged to just fucking lie, to say things that they don't believe, that they know don't reflect reality, because they know that doing that will get them what they want out of this whole thing, which is fame and money. And I want to give you an example of that right now. Here's an example. It's Jesse Waters saying that the FAA system's outage yesterday wasn't based on a bad database, which is what we're learning. And bear in mind, that happened a couple of years ago anyway. It's because they're changing the word airman because of what he terms transvestite pilots. Quote, they're not spending money on those computers. They're changing the word airman because a transvestite pilot might get offended. That's not what they're doing. Now, look, pointing out that's not what caused the outage is the easiest thing in the world. It should be pointless. I think we can all agree. But we do have to follow by saying he doesn't think that that's what's happening. He doesn't care. But look, as a prerequisite to lying about what is causing it, you have to not really care what's causing it, or at the very least, not care that your audience actually comes out of the broadcast having any fucking clue what actually caused the problem. But let's go even a level beyond that. We're going to jump to the third level of this, which is the audience hearing that doesn't care what he actually thinks, doesn't care what's actually happening. They care more about feeling good than they do about whether they're being fucking lied to by a person that on some level they think that they trust, or that they actually understand what's happening in this country. And then the fourth level is it's fucking sick that what would make them feel good is, yeah, it's probably those transvestites that are causing it. I mean, I don't really think that. When I'm thinking about politics, I'm not really thinking about what's really going on and trying to come to some sort of conclusions. I just want to feel good stewing in hatred. It's fucking sick that is what it is. Now, look, credit to Jesse Waters that he understands. Oh, man, buddy, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's really sad. Hopefully it'll turn up. Cats sometimes run. I'm sure it'll come back. Jesse Waters understands that the media bubble he's in has nothing whatsoever to do with the truth or reality. He doesn't have to express what he really thinks. What he says doesn't have to have any attachment to reality, and he will make a lot of money by fucking lying. Really fast news. Texas high school coach is in trouble after players were hospitalized after he made them do 400 push-ups without breaks and water as some sort of punishment. That's a little bit messed up. One of them apparently had, I think it was rhabdo, which it turns out can be severely aggravated by that sort of insane exercise without water. Just a terrible idea. So one topic that I thought we would get to talk about here on the pre-show, unfortunately aren't going to have time, is going to be the committee kickoffs that are happening. So this is Eric Swalwell, I believe Adam Schiff, Ilhan Omar. I want to do a full thing on that. So tomorrow, I think with Brett, we're probably going to talk about that. But for now, I want to lighten things up, I guess, and talk about our former president who might be our next president. So one of the most important things a president can do, even if this isn't one of the things that gets the most news coverage, is picking their advisors, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, those sorts of things. Super important. So here is an accounting of how he went about picking some people, okay? This is Joe Scarborough saying, I remember during the transition talking to him, and him talking about how Rex Tillerson was big, and he looked like the role. He was big. He loved James Mattis because of his nickname, Mad Dog. It's a fucking nickname that he probably gave himself. But you could be big, you could have a funny nickname. He didn't like David Petraeus, and get a fucking load of this, of why. Because he thought Petraeus worked out too much. He was too drawn in. He weighed the same in high school that he weighed when Trump was talking to him. And no Secretary of State can be that drawn. I'm serious. I watched that conversation in awe. This is Mika Brzezinski, who was apparently there for it too. He was obsessed with how much he worked out and thought that somehow it didn't look manly enough, like you need to not care so much. Okay, now the idea that he is choosing secretaries of state and defense and all this stuff based on their physical appearance, that is ridiculous enough. But look at how transparently self-serving and vain this particular issue he has is. So Donald Trump, a guy who tells his audience constantly, like all of the supposed macho alpha men do, that you need to be alpha, you need to be macho, you need to do all these things, but don't look better than me. You need to be a strong man, but not that strong. That's not manly anymore. You need to be strong, but not in a way that I'm not. Don't do that. It bothered him that the dude weighed less than he did. Jesus Christ. All of these reasons are bullshit. The waistline doesn't fucking matter when you're choosing a Secretary of State, but I love that he's yeah, you need to be strong, but only in a way that I qualify for. I don't want to have to do anything. Well, then how about not make up bullshit definitions of what qualifies as masculine, you jackass? But as ridiculous as all of that is not the part of this that I think reflects worst on him. It has to do with Nikki Haley. So why didn't he choose Nikki Haley for Secretary of State? Why wouldn't he choose her for VP? Get a load of fucking this. Nikki Haley, he throws out in the Oval Office, Trump says, is that she doesn't look good for me. Okay, why? He complains about her blotchy complexion. It says, because of her aesthetics, he didn't like her as a potential, senior administration official or VP replacement. It was because of her blotchy complexion. Now, I have an issue with this for two quick reasons. The first is, who the fuck cares about her complexion? Also, as a consequence of this, are you fucking telling me that if she wore more concealer, she could have been your VP? And also, setting aside for a second that it's insane and sexist to not choose a female politician because you don't like her skin enough. But secondly, you're gonna fucking talk about people's complexion, Trump? Again, in the same way that him judging Petraeus's body is rich, you have an issue with her complexion? let's see your complexion. No, I mean your actual complexion. How about you take off the half-inch thick layer of orange makeup that you put on every day and show us what your skin actually looks like. He thinks he's winning. He thinks that he's killing it when it comes to the face that he presents to the world. Nikki Haley doesn't have a sexy enough face to be our lead diplomat. Look, constant viewers of this show are probably not going to be shocked by this. I get that. And I know that it's unlikely that I'm going to get through to a lot of Republicans with this, but I will just say it is one thing to have gotten through this period of Donald Trump choosing people for these absolutely stupid reasons, but bear in mind, he has a significant chance of doing it again. And I want you to remember all of what we just said as we move towards the full show and we talk about who he's choosing potentially for VP. Okay, with that said, everyone, thank you for joining me on this pre-show. J.R. Jackson is live as we speak. Jackson White has joined him. It's the Jackson and Jackson Hour. So you definitely want to tune into that. A.B. Burns Tucker is going to be joining me on the show. It's going to be awesome. George Santos moving marginally closer towards being forced out with every passing day. We'll see. We'll evaluate it together. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already, everyone, and I will see you soon.